You're watching SA Today, and we've got quite a packed lineup for you this afternoon. Just to warn you that in a short while, we're hoping to be crossing to Davos in Switzerland, where Thandeka Gqubule-Mbeki will be speaking to President Ramaphosa. That's all happening in Davos in Switzerland, and we'll be crossing there for that interview in a short while. But first, former BOSASA COO Angelo Agrizzi has again dropped another bombshell at the inquiry investigating state capture. Agrizzi told the Commission how BOSASA paid 3 NPA officials to get information from them on the progress of an SIU investigation. He also named senior officials at the head office of Correctional Services who were paid monthly bribes amounting to 100,000 rand to ensure that the company got tenders. Agrizzi was asked to confirm the list of names that he had provided to the Commission regarding bribes. He said that payments to these individuals were initiated by the departure of former Correctional Services Commissioner Linda Mti, who had assisted BOSASA to obtain millions rands worth of contracts with the department. Agrizzi had added that Mti departed from his position in 2007 and had been paid by BOSASA during his tenure and for his assistance and the payments. Well, for more on today's state capture inquiry, you're now joined by our reporter Mzwandile Mbeje to give us an update, and I believe that he has a guest with him as well.
Well, we have just concluded the proceedings here at the State Capture Commission chaired by Judge Zondo, of course hearing all sorts of allegations. But what was interesting today was that the NPA was very much in the picture, and perhaps some of the characters that have played a very prominent role in the NPA. But let me bring in the national acting spokesperson of the ANC, Zizi Kodwa, who's been sitting through and listening in and hearing really what sort of issues were going on, particularly at the NPA. I know that there's a new head coming, but from what you have heard as the ANC, what's your take?
The revelations are shocking. It's a bombshell after bombshell. All what it says is that as a country and a government, we were right to establish this commission. Because I would imagine outside of this commission, we would not have been able to find out some of the things that we see, although people have got a right to come and give their alternative version. But an allegation, a revelation that there was an attempt to capture law enforcement agencies. It was meant to create a state of lawlessness in the country. It was meant to create a state of mafia in the country. And that, I think, we must appreciate the reason why President Ramaphosa has now established commissions to investigate in a number of institutions, whether they're public institutions, in order to restore confidence, but at the same time, look at the law enforcement agencies, because the attempt to make them ineffective was an attempt to undermine our efforts to fight crime, to fight corruption. We welcome some of these revelations because they help us to go through this process of healing, of renewal. At the end, our people, it will restore their confidence in public institutions. It's unheard of that institutions of law enforcement agencies in particular have been targeted. You can see the operations of the big cartel. Among others, as they do all of these scandals, they also target law enforcement agencies in order to capture the state. We worry, we monitor these revelations quite closely. It's a moment of renewal for the country. It's a moment of reflection. We've got to reflect. What had gone wrong for us to get to this precipitous point?
I mean, we had the CEO of BOSASA, Mr. Watson, basically in a meeting with Mti and Agrizzi, basically telling them he was going to approach the former president and tell him exactly what to do insofar as getting the right people at the NPA.
People must respect the elected leadership. They must respect the ethical leadership. That's why even the leadership itself must act in a manner that is respected, perhaps without making prejudgments about some of the issues that come from the audit, because there could be an alternative version to that. But that's why we say, among others, the resolutions of the 54th National Conference say, among others, whatever we do, we must enhance the integrity of the organization. The leadership of the ANC must be respected. It must be trusted. But in a manner in which it conducts itself, that leadership, it will gain, it will earn respect. But in a manner that things have happened in the recent past, you could see that we ourselves, perhaps, there are lessons to be learned. It's a moment of reflection. And I think as we go along, we must, among others, look how these revelations affect the integrity of the African National Congress.
Thank you very much, Zizi. I know that I hijacked you. You're on your way to the airport right now.
Thank you.
Thanks. So that was Zizi Kodwa, the acting spokesperson of the ANC, basically saying they are very disappointed about what they had with regards to the NPA. But I can just perhaps sum it up, this evidence today that has just been led by Mr. Advocate Paul Pretorius, talking to Agrizzi, who's been the witness here for the past 7 days, and then the proceedings have just concluded, but they are not done yet. So I think one of the things really that came to the fore here was that Mr. Agrizzi spoke of an NPA really that was under siege, or an NPA really that had been so severely compromised. That is why he was talking about them paying someone like Nomgcobo Jiba about 100,000 rand, and someone like Lawrence Mkhwebi. And it's also very interesting to know that there's actually an inquiry looking into whether they are fit to hold office. So these things, I think, when they combine at some point, they would be able to really bring clarity to what South Africans would want to know. And just before we concluded the proceedings here, so we then had a recording from Mr. Agrizzi. Basically, that recording was a meeting between Mr. Agrizzi, Mr. Kevin Watson, who is the CEO of BOSASA, and Linda Mti, who was the former commissioner at the Correctional Services. So, given that they were in trouble and they realized that things were not going well for them, so they needed a plan of sorts. And then Mr. Watson in that meeting basically told them that he was going to approach the then president to tell him that he needed to appoint the right people because things were not going right. So, which really is very interesting. I mean, when you look at all things that have been happening at the NPA. But as we've said, as we've been saying during this whole situation, is that the new NPA boss will really have her work cut out, because it does look like there's a lot of cleaning up that she will have to do.
All right, Zwai, thanks very much indeed. That's where we're going to leave it. Mswandile Mbeje, I'm sure we'll get more of an update from him a little bit later on in our program Full View after 6 o'clock. Well, somebody who